Can you start at the beginning and how you first came into the journey into the paranormal world, please?
Yeah, well, I didn't sort of come into the paranormal fairly late. I wasn't introduced to it. I was actually born into it. Um, my very first memory was paranormal in nature. That's how far it goes back. It was an instant. I used to live with me. I lived with my dad and my brother. My mum and dad were separated, so there was just us three. And I was very, very young. I mean, God, I can't even put an age on it, but it's the first thing I can remember. We're all sleeping in the same room. I was that young. I was sleeping next to my dad. My brother was in a separate bed, and all of a sudden, my brother just woke up screaming. I mean, absolutely screaming. He was older than me by a number of years, and it woke everyone up. And I can remember vague flashes of it, but obviously the story was related later as well, when I was a bit older. That my brother had sort of woken up and in a startle, and he looked up, and there was a person walking through the wall, heading straight towards him in the bed, and that's where it started. I remember waking up, looking at him very vaguely, just bits and bobs, and just remember the scream was the main thing, and it just kept going from there. It literally just never stopped. Just little things would happen, and it just build up and build up and build up. But that was the very, very first memory of anything paranormal.
So after this incident, where did you go from there?
The first step, when I actually started doing something with it, when I was obviously old enough, was in my teens. Obviously, I'd had many experiences from that point, way too many to sort of just even speak about in a conversation like this. But when I got to my teens, and my brother again was a bit older, we had so many experiences and so many weird things happen that we started looking into it as what I would call as a paranormal investigator would. Start looking into why this was happening, what was going on, and things like that. And so we just decided one day, or my brother did in his wisdom, decided one day, let's just go to a spiritualist church and see if we can get answers. That's where it started. Yeah, it was a weird move, an interesting move, but it kind of was out of left field for my brother. But yeah, he just said, let's go and see if we can get some answers, and that's literally what we did. That's what, again, kicked it off into the next gear.
You mentioned you and your brother went to a spiritualist church. Can you tell me what happened?
Right, when I went to spiritualist church, I remember we went in and we sat at the back, as you do, because we were just there. We didn't expect to maybe get a message or anything like that, but we wanted to see other people who were getting messages, how it worked.
I didn't.
Exactly, so we were just hiding. So I took ourselves at the back of the group, out the way. And they went through the whole thing, and it was cool. People were getting messages coming through, and it was kind of helping me and my brother sort of see how the spirit world maybe worked, and how these things happened, And it got right to the end, and I thought, right, we've had no messages through. That's cool. Still, we've heard some good stuff. And then the person on the podium just said, right, before we end this session, I just want to have a word with you. And she pointed straight at me, right through the crowd. Now I was just like a rabbit in the headlights. I was like, hang on, whoa, what? She said, I've spotted you the moment you came in. And she said, she looked at us now. I mean, no one knew about our story, how we got to this point and the trouble we had with the paranormal. And she just said, you've got the gift. You've got a gift, but you're ignoring it. You ignore them. That's why you're having so much trouble. They're trying to get your attention, and you're not listening. You're not listening. And I didn't know even how to process that information. At that point, I was just, I just kept I was just looking at nubs and okay, where's the exit? Okay, and that kind of just opened a whole new chapter, as you can imagine. I was like, my God, I mean, this person couldn't have even known what we were there for. You know what I mean? There was no way, and it just blew the lid off everything.
Going back to the time your brother screamed, did you manage to pin down what it was he saw?
Yep, there was a story behind that as well. Yeah, he was. My brother had only just started school, so there was no, they weren't learning a lot. They were just getting the basics. So when my dad woke up, well, dad just didn't wake up. He kind of, as you may imagine, he bolted up. And there's my brother screaming with his hands over his face. I mean, the scream was horrific. It wasn't a nightmare he had. When he said it after the fact he was awake, it was a scream of pure terror. And they said, describe what you saw, because he couldn't put it in, he couldn't say what he saw. So they said, describe what you saw best you can. What was it wearing? What was it doing? And he didn't know what to call it, right? So that bit's important. He didn't know what to call it, but he described a fully clad Roman soldier. And he had no concept of what a Roman soldier was, because he'd only just started school himself. He hadn't learned anything like that. He didn't say it was a Roman soldier. He just described what he saw and what it was wearing, and then the adults knew kind of what he was looking at. And he still can. The ironic thing is, it's so imprinted on his mind, he can actually recall the exact image to this day. And he's 50, you know what I mean? He's like, it's etched onto his brain.
So do you feel this was more of a ghost than the spirit?
I think so. I don't think it was something wanting to communicate with him. I think it was more residual. It was just a replay from the past or something like that. I mean, it was still just as terrifying for him, I can think, and it didn't do me any good either, because, like I said, at that age, I just woke up listening to this scream. I didn't see anything at that point. But it was an horrific time. And my dad just lifted us both out of the house and we left the house.
So is it from here, after processing what's been gone on and what you've been told, that you went into the field?
Yep. Next step was, once we had the spiritualist church experience, I kind of knew that what had happened before was real. Because sometimes, I know you'll know this yourself, you doubt yourself sometimes. Things you see, things you hear, and I've had some horrific things. I mean, in that time period before we got to the spiritualist church, I've been, through the course of a teenager, I've been punched, dragged out of bed by my hair, found myself half on the floor, had, like the sleep tour thing where you pin to the bed type of thing. They say it's sleep paralysis, but it was different. It wasn't sleep paralysis, and the weird thing was, unknown to me, the main time this happened, it was horrifying to happen. But days later, when I finally plucked up the courage to tell my brother what had happened on that night, he said, "What night was this?" And I said, "It was like 2 nights ago." He said, "The same thing happened to me." So we both had the same thing at exactly the same time, the same experience, which again said to me that wasn't just a case of sleep paralysis. I woke up, my body wasn't awake. I was awake, and I was actually felt the pressure pushing us into the bed. I could feel myself being pushed into the mattress. It was weird, but to both happen at the same time, that kind of rules out. I mean, the chances of that happening being sleep paralysis on the same night are pretty remote. So up until all through my teenage things, I had all these things happen, and that one visit to this thing just put it into perspective that, yes, this is real. This is happening. Someone else who couldn't have known has seen it. So I then took it to the next stage. I started looking more into the paranormal, actually, as into what a spirit was, what a ghost is. And, as I think a lot of people do, you start doing a bit of research and looking a bit deeper into the subject. Even though I've had it happen firsthand, I still didn't understand it. And I think the next time where something significant happened was, again, about 18, 19 years old. Then I kind of started looking into more being a paranormal investigator rather than just being somebody who'd had stuff happen to them, you know what I mean? I kind of took it to the next level.
So would you categorise yourself as a medium?
Yes and no. I don't like to be called a medium or a sensitive or a psychic or anything like that. I do know that I'm able to do that. I've learned different skills, and I've been taught by some incredible people, which is another part of the journey that's coming up, to sort of like use what I have. But I don't class myself as, I wouldn't say to someone, oh, I'm a medium, I can sense and think things. I kind of don't work like that, you know what I mean? It's not something, it's not a gift that I wanted. So it's not something I sort of publicise a lot at all.
So have you met your spirit guide?
Sorry?
And would he or she allow you to sort of speak about them?
Yeah. Well, basically, up until very recently, I didn't even want to know who my spirit guide was. I wasn't, it wasn't kind of interested, because I said it doesn't matter who it may or may not be, for me, because I was kind of going down a different path. I wasn't wanting to do the medium thing, so I didn't really thought I needed to know who my guide was. Just nice to know that maybe there was someone there who had me back. But then it was when I got the time to live in Gibraltar and do other things that I met some fantastic people there who sort of like tried to talk me around into, it's a good thing to know, yes, they have your back, but it's sometimes nice to link with that person or that spirit. And that's what they tried to do.
So moving forward, how did your first app come into being?
Well, it was just a natural progression because obviously I had a little bit of an advantage having a bit of a gift, being able to sense spirit and hear them, and they could actually physically interact and touch me, as I found out the hard way. But the apps came about after I went to Gibraltar, which was a few years ago. I got the chance to go and live in Gibraltar for a couple of years. And while I was there, I got the chance to work on TV. And I started working just at the point where I was approached by the TV company and they said, do you want to be part of this? I was actually just looking into apps, and specifically ghostbox, which we've all heard of.
Yeah.
And I just pitched to the producer of the show, because the show used a medium, and he was going to use then us investigators and tech to sort of collaborate what she was getting, vice versa, so we could work together. And I said, I've got this idea. I said, I know it's going into some nuts, but there's this app, and I've tested it, and I think it's cool, and I want to use it. So that's where that started. So we started using it, and it worked really well. But then as I was using it, I thought, it's good, but I maybe would have done things a slightly different way. Maybe, and I started having no ideas, but of course at that time I didn't have a clue what the hell to do. But that was the catalyst. I thought, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be another way of doing this to make this better and this better and this better. And I just, again, was in the right place at the right time. I landed in with a group who were sort of learning all this stuff. And that's where the apps were born. We just basically were taught and learned how to do it, how to do the coding and things. I was already fairly good at graphics and that, which helped. And we just sort of said, right. And I sat down one day and I said, right, take all the other apps that's been done, and do one as you. How would you want it, Brian? How would you want an app if you were an investigator to work? And that's where the first app was born.
As I've said to you on social media, I've always been doubtful on these, but as I've said to you,
So that, trust me.
I've always been previously in the belief that if you gave a monkey a radio and it kept turning the dials, eventually it would come up with some form of sentence.
You would, but you would not get real-time replies to your questions on a very regular basis. You would get, you could get a monkey to sit and spin a dial on a radio, and you may get the odd word. You would get a word, but if you sitting down with an app that's done right, and you ask a very specific question, you get pretty much an instantaneous reply answering that question, and then you do it over and over and over and over again, and you.
If in recent months I've had a bit of success with the Phasma communicator.
Exactly. But you hit the nail on the head though about the thing is it's about the right app, because the problem we had, I've mentioned this on other radio interviews and things, it's a bugbear of mine. Early days of apps, a lot of them were written as pranks, as joke apps, as prank your friend. And then a couple of them then tried to get a bit more serious, but then the label was set that any apps that came out were just pretending prank, and then you had like the ghost radars and things like that, which were a mix of the two. But now we've come to the thing, that was what me and Javier started the Geminis project for, to show people that if these things were done right, that they could be taken seriously. We're trying to pull ourselves away from that stigma, which has been a bloody hard job, because it's been there for years, obviously. It's a big thing. So I do appreciate when people say, yeah, well, apps, and again, I've had all the skeptics and all the haters throw some fantastic excuses of how these things work and how we make them work that are actually more unbelievable than what they think the app is doing talking to the dead, if you know what I mean.
In my opinion, has been changing.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm a bit dubious on some of them still.
Around about 8 weeks ago, I was doing a Q&A on Facebook live using the Phasma communicator. And that morning my wife had made me a bacon sandwich, and the fat had spat and hit her in the right eye. Excuse me, I got a cold. Now I left the Phasma on after the stream to see what I would get. Sorry, excuse me, must apologise. Anyway, my wife asked if her eye was swollen, and an image of an eye came up on the screen, and I thought it was strange, but it was probably chance, Anyway, and as you know, the Phasma is the voice word and the picture. Yeah. This was strange, but we carried on talking. Anyway, my wife said it felt like someone had put a candle in her eye. Excuse me, sorry about this cold. Anyway, at that same moment she said that, an image of a candle came up. So yeah, we thought it was strange, and about 20 minutes later our youngest son, was about 18 months at the time, woke crying. And I said to my wife, he probably needs a nappy change, can you run up and do it while I turn everything off for bed? Now, anyway, at this point the word feed came up. So sorry, I must apologise for this. Anyway, long story short, my wife went up to change him, and then as she came down, but basically it wasn't his nappy. Long story short, it wasn't his nappy. He was hungry and needed a feed, just like the episode.
That's it. I mean, when these things are done right and they're done seriously, and there's nothing in there that like in some of the early apps that was put in for dramatic effect, they can't work, because spirit is just energy. So they be able to manipulate energy. So it's it's not easy for them, but it's fairly easy for them to do these things. But like I say, apps like that, I use some of the extreme senses software myself, and they're some of the ones I do trust. There's only certain ones I do sort of trust as being potentially genuine, and that they're amongst them.
Back in, I believe it was 1910, an adventurer claims to have found a cave in the Grand Canyon. Now, the unnamed adventurer claims that he found ancient Egyptian caskets and sarcophagus, things like that, and a race of alien beings. And since that area of the Grand Canyon has been locked off ever since, it's completely shut off. But is there only one place in the world that people are banned from that you'd like to investigate if you ever had the chance? And if so, where would it be?
Well, that is a good question. That's a $1 million question, isn't it? One of those places where it's once in a lifetime sort of thing. That is something I've never really thought about, to be honest. I mean, I've been able to privileged to have done some amazing locations that some people would never get the chance to, but I'm not sure. It's just something I've never sat down and just pinpoint. I suppose a couple I've heard of in the UK that I've seen others do have intrigued us, but I kind of think anywhere, one place that it could be locked off, that if I got the chance I would do, because there are potentially so many. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things you could choose. I cannot really answer the question because I don't really know. I mean, the obvious one as a paranormal investigator and a sort of like looking into UFOs and other paranormal kind of activity, like the Nevada deserty area where you're not supposed to go, and Area 51 and all that. Weird shit goes on there, and that's both intriguing as a paranormal investigator and just the paranormal itself, not just spirits and ghosts and things. There's some weird stuff goes on out there.
Do you feel the paranormal TV shows are a help, or they're in fact actually hurting, and those that are serious about paranormal?
It can be it depends on the show. It can be a hindrance, to be honest. Some of the ones at the minute that are a bit problematic for me are like, I love the Ghost Adventures and things like that, but everything at the minute's just demonic.
Yeah.
Everything's demonic. Ghost Adventures just seem to go really dark, and everything is just a demonic attack, an evil entity. So shows like that, I think, can give this field a bit of a bad vibe, to be honest. Other ones, not so much. I mean, like the Paranormal Lockdown, where they just go into a location, they stay there for 2 days, and whatever happens, happens. That to me is a little bit more how I kind of would do it, or I would like it. But I don't like these ones that's all I used to call them like the Miami Vice of the Go Paranormal, where they're diving through friggin' windows and everything's like screaming and the demons are coming out the walls and all that shit. I don't get that.
I personally feel certain shows, and obviously for legal reasons I can't name them, but I personally, without mentioning names, feel that these fake TV mediums do a big disservice to the field. It shows like this, I feel, make a mockery of the paranormal field just in general.
It does. I mean, if a paranormal, because we have a sort of most haunted and that over here as well, that's been caught out a few times. Exactly, but the thing is, the TV show I was involved with, we basically went out on location, and what I used to say is, if nothing happens, you're going to get to see nothing happen with me. You know what I mean? We didn't dramatise anything. It's just, this is what happens. I think if you hear a loud noise any second, mate, it's just my buzzer going. I think I might be getting a little delivery, so don't jump if you hear a loud buzz.
No problem.
Because it will be like that. Be deaf in 2 seconds, mate. Hello? Okay, I'll buzz you in. Oh, that's loud.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Right. We've got a couple of seconds because it'll take a poor guy like several minutes to get up the stairs and up to the flat. As I was saying, you know, I know that they investigate over like a 12-hour period on a night or something, and they've got you know, they're just cutting out all the exciting bits. But I think it's important to leave some of the boring bits in where nothing's happening, because it gives the paranormal feel like all the stuff happening all the time. It's non-stop. No, it's not. You can sit there for 5 hours, you know, contemplating the universe because nothing's happening.
And just get about 2
you
minutes.
just sit there. There's no activity. You're not chasing anything. The equipment's not doing anything. And yes, you can then get periods where something will happen and it'll be cool. But you know, they just all this editing that they do is a bit, you know, I don't like it. It is. I know they cannot leave the boring stuff in because you know, people would complain, and they've only got a certain length of time that the show is on for. So, and they've got to make it kind of exciting to pull people in, but it gives a false representation of how it actually works.
My favourite question here. Right.
Yeah.
Now then, if you had the choice to investigate with anyone, alive or dead, real or fictional, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, within the field, there's a few people I'd love to take along.
I mean,
just anybody.
Yeah.
Well, there's again, that is a very reaching question. I don't know outside the field. I don't know. Because I'm very, very linked within the paranormal and ITC, I don't really think of anything outside. Even any fictional characters, I don't really know. Again, it's a hard one to answer. I mean, if I had to think, say, there's inspirational people I'd like to take from within the field who work in this kind of area, and some of them that I would like to take. One person I would like to take. That's a good question, actually. What do you call him? That you know the main skeptic. What do you call him? Randy something. What do you call him? You know what? I've got to come on. Yeah, you know the one I mean though. Bit old guy, beard, is a complete debunker. I would actually love the challenge to take someone like him along with us to sort of like potentially turn someone who's as skeptical as that into someone who maybe's even getting them to be sitting on the fence, you know, one way or the other. That would be cool, and a hell of a challenge. Because that to me would be, rather than taking anybody influential or anyone famous or anyone, you know, think someone like that, or a couple of people like that who are well known themselves for like being very, well, he's not just a skeptic, he's, you know, he's put up a large sum of money, hasn't he? He's that convinced that the paranormal isn't real. But yeah, I think that would be really cool.
I think you mean Stanton Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sure, but it's late.
Yeah.
Anyway, the magician, if you remember rightly, Paul Daniels in the 80s.
Well, you've got to be confident, like, to put that much money. But again, the thing is, he chases a lot of psychics and a lot of, like, you know, that sort of thing. But the problem is, he says there's no proof of the paranormal, but of course there isn't, because if there was total proof, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing anymore, because we've already proved it. That's the problem. So he says there's no proof. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not real. It just means that we haven't definitively proven that it's real. But we're trying our hardest. That's for sure.
Sorry, not Stanton Freeman. What are your views on cryptids?
On what? Sorry.
On cryptids.
Again, it's not a subject I've sort of like. At the minute, my brain is so wrapped up in ITC. And the area in which I'm at, I don't think much outside of that. Apart from, you know, little bits like I said about with the UFO stuff. So I haven't got I kind of give a definitive opinion on that. You know what I mean?
In closing, is there any advice you'd like to give to anyone wanting to start out in the field?
That is a really good question. Yeah. I would say, don't watch any of the TV shows. Start fresh. Don't go there, and start at the beginning. Start with basics. Too many people that start in this field are trying to fast track, and that's again why I said don't watch the TV shows. They're trying to fast track the way to get to where, like, some of these famous people are. Start at the beginning and learn. It takes a long time. But learn. You don't need all the fancy equipment. You don't need all this stuff. Start with the basics. Start with yourself, because you, as far as like what I've been taught, you are the best tool that you have and will ever have in the field.
It's the brain and knowledge.
Exactly.
Do you want to say anything more? Would you like to say anything more?
Yeah, for anybody who's obviously in this field, they know what we do. But anybody coming into this field, just be open-minded. Be open-minded and try things. Try different things. Don't just try something, and if it doesn't work for you, don't just write it off and then sort of say, oh, it's all fake and things, because what works for you might not work for someone else. We've all got our own things. So basically, find what works for you. Find what gets you your best evidence, and then go with that. But my biggest thing with the field at the minute is this, you know, which you'll have seen yourself, is all this infighting and all this drama.
Backbiting.
Exactly. Don't get wrapped up into the drama. A lot of the drama I'm wrapped up into the minute is because someone will say this doesn't work, and it's been proven to be debunked. And I've said, well, not really, but yeah, I can see what you think. But you know, other people have used it and getting fantastic evidence, and it causes arguments. And that's why I've said, start at the beginning, learn. Takes time. It takes years, but learn and read, and not off Wikipedia, nothing like that. Read off books. listen to what and watch what some other, I don't mean the TV people, but what a lot of people in the field, some really good people are doing some really good research. Watch what they're doing, read what they're doing, read the evidence they're getting, the research that they're doing. And just like I say, the most important thing is just use what works for you. But don't condemn anybody else if they've got a slightly different opinion or use a slightly different thing. Be your own person, be your own investigator. Inspire to be like a little bit like take little bits from other people, and like I'd love to do a bit of that, and that inspires me. But go your own route.
I'd like to say a big thank you there, Brian.
Oh, I did no problem, mate. Like I said, I don't mind at all.
Really enjoyed it, to be honest. Great fun. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
no problem. Yeah, definitely,
Apologies
mate.
for
Just any time you want to hit up for a chat, or you want to ask you want to ask about anything, about even if you just got a question about what we do and in the apps and things like that. Feel free to ask. I don't mind answering any questions and that.
Do you have a website where anyone can make contact with you?
Yeah, well, I keep my web stuff very simple. I don't have any major weird names at a lot of these things. You can hit me up on Facebook. Just search for my name. Same with YouTube. It's just under my name, Brian Holloway. Exactly the same on the Play Store if you want to go and check out any of the apps. And from my Facebook, then you can see links to, like, we've got the Geminis Project user page. That's just an area where people can just share all the evidence they're getting with all the apps that we do. Simple as that. Just search for the name.
Right, and again, thank you for your time, Brian.
Yeah. Right, cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Right.
Well, there we go. That was the interview with Brian Holloway. As you may or may have not noticed, there was a few errors there, but I've had to auto-cue it, unfortunately. Fantastic guy. Help so many times. He's given me advice. He's brilliant. There's many in the field that are like that. Brian Holloway. Excuse me, I am full of cold. But you got Brian Holloway himself. You got David Barrett, Chris Houston, John Griffiths, and Joe Thompson. Just so many out there. So please go on Facebook and check them out. Don't forget to click the subscribe button, by the way. Sorry, I'm tired because it's ridiculous o'clock in the morning. But I hope apologies for the bad editing, but I don't know this program. But I've got to say a big thank you again to Brian. Thank you to Chris Houston for allowing my video blogs and my interviews to go through RTP and Paranormal Truth and Reality. Oh, it's a bloody fly, sorry. But yeah, I absolutely enjoyed myself with that interview today, and hope to catch up with Brian at a later date. So with that, I'll say thank you very much and good night.